and welcome back to the Rogues of the Garage channel. In today's episode of Mail Call, I wanted to pay a small tribute to the individual that kind of led me to enjoying Westerns. People of my age, young teens, the early 1990s, there's one Western that really sticks out for most of us, and that Western was Tombstone. And while we look back and we realize there were a lot of amazing actors in that film, I believe it's safe to say that we were all drawn to the performance of one particular individual. And I'm speaking, of course, about Val Kilmer. With Val Kilmer's passing, I just wanted to share my gratitude for his role as Doc Holliday. It's an iconic role. It's one that, I remember being a young person and just being, wow, right? Just amazed by the performance, amazed by the Southern aristocratic drawl. And I want to show that small token of appreciation and, well, just bring out my Funko Pops. These are the only 3 Funko Pops that I own, by the way. Okay, but if you notice, all 3 are variations of Doc Holliday, of Val Kilmer in the role of Doc Holliday from the film Tombstone. So as we go upon today's journey of opening the mail, seeing what we got in Outlaws of Thunder Junction, just a thought for Val Kilmer and his loved ones. Now, on to the mail. We have the extended art version of Fortune, Loyal Steed, 1 white, 2 colors, 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, you get to scry 2. Whenever Fortune attacks while saddled, at the end of combat, exile it and up to 1 creature that saddled it this turn. Then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. At 2/4, it allows you to scry 2 for 3 mana. It's not a bad deal. The Blazing Root Walla. This is the second of the store competition cards to come in. This was the card I really given to everybody who participated in store events. 1 red for a 1/1. You can pay an extra 1 to give it a +2/+0 until end of turn. I like this. I think it's a nice little cheap red creature. Get out and it can be a chump blocker, but also do a little bit of early ping damage. So that's the Blazing Root Walla. We have Corvold, the Fey Cursed King, one of the Secret Lair OTJ cards. 1 green, 1 red, 1 black, 2 colors for a 4/4 flyer. Whenever Corvold, the Fey Cursed King, enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Corvold and draw a card. I would assume that you could start to really buff Corvold up with, tokens. If you've got a token creator out there, you can just sacrifice those. And a lot of times tokens are not more than 1/1. Sometimes there's some 2/2s out there. I think there's some check that. Green does have a lot of powerful tokens, but I think there's also plenty of really cheap chump blocker tokens out there, and you can start to sacrifice those, pretty much make it a wash, if you will, in terms of power, except that power is now put all on Corvold, and you also get to draw a card. I would say not terrible for 5 mana cost. And again, I think the real deal here for me is the artwork. I think it's pretty cool artwork. All right, we have multiple cards here. Let's save the hard plastic for last. We got the Lost Jite. This is the extended art version. I got the regular art version in earlier. 1 colorless. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, put a charge counter on Lost Jite, or however you'd like to pronounce it. Remove a charge counter from it, and you get to choose one of the following abilities. Untap target land. Target creature can't block this turn. Or put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature. And for 1 generic casting cost, it's not a bad piece of equipment. All right. The Grand Abolisher. You know, in an earlier episode, I looked at that last word there, and it's pronounced abolisher. And a friend of mine, upon watching the video, immediately texted me, abolisher. And here's the thing. I'm accustomed to seeing the word abolition. I'm accustomed to seeing and using the word abolitionist. But it all goes to crap when you use the term abolisher. All right. But the Grand Abolisher, 2 white for 2/2. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. I tend to think this could be a win con pulled in the right situation. Yes, it's only a 2/2 and it's a cheap 2/2 at that, but that ability to prevent your opponents from being able to play so many potential spells or abilities feels like you're ready to go in for the win. You activate that ability, or actually you don't have to activate it. It's just on your turn. And I just feel like I said, in the right situation, this is a win con. Or maybe part of a win con. All right, in the hard plastic, we got Almond Path Journey. Almond Path Journey. When the journey enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 5 land cards that have different names, exile them, then shuffle. At the beginning of your end step, choose a card at random exiled with Almond Path, however you pronounce it, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. I think this is a good way of securing mana. You are able to go through your library, pick out certain manas you want. They have to have different names, but the nice thing there is it's not basic. So you can choose whatever you want. At the same time, it is a 4 casting cost card. So what type of mana problems you're running into by that point in the game, I would be a little bit worried about, but at least it's a way of securing, mana in the future. And this is the extended art version. Ooh, neat little packaging there. All right, we have, again, a regular repulse in the breaking news style. Earlier video, I opened an envelope and it was the foil version. And while I appreciate being upgraded to foils, my idea here is I'm going to try and keep this as cheap, which is a relative term, as cheap as possible by avoiding foils whenever possible. There are certain cards that are only offered in foils, but whenever there's just a basic version offered, that's what I'm shooting for. And so while I appreciated the upgrade on the previous repulse, I went back and got a standard version. 1 blue, 2 colorless, return target creature to its owner's hand, and draw a card. We have the extended art version of Pest Control. 1 black, 1 white. Destroy all non-land permanents with mana value 1 or less. So a great way of getting rid of tokens, other chump blockers. Nice little spell to have if you're running black-white. And again, it's the extended art version. We have the Sandstorm Salvager. 1 green, 2 colors for a 1/1. This is also an extended art version. When Sandstorm Salvager enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 colors golem artifact creature token. Pay 2 colors and tap to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature token you control. They gain trample until end of turn. I think this goes very well in the land recursion, landfall pre-con deck. I can see a lot of uses for this because there's just a lot of token creation in that deck, all based off of, bringing lands back from the graveyard. So I think this character would fit in quite nicely in that deck. This appears to be the Secret Lair version of Gristlebrand. That's how I'm going to pronounce it, Gristlebrand. 4 black, 4 colors for a 7/7. Flying, lifelink. Pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. Maybe if you're playing a black-white deck or maybe a black-green deck, you have some form of life generation. Pay that 7 life isn't that big a deal. You get to draw 7 cards. The fact it's a flyer, the fact that it's lifelink, so it can actually in the end kind of start paying for itself, it's kind of nice. And again, I do enjoy the artwork. And we have the extended art version of Loot, the key to everything. I know I've already got at least one version of loot. I believe it might be the regular version, but this could also have been a card that was upgraded to foil, and I went back and got the regular version. I can't remember at this point. I've purchased so many cards. Either way, he is a 1 red, 1 blue, 1 green for a 1/2 ward of 1. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of card types among other non-land permanents you control. You may play those cards this turn. It's a way to get some quick library millage, right? And try to get through your library a little bit faster. At the same time, probably want to make sure you have a lot of mana before you do so. You don't want to end up milling a card that can be very valuable and not have the mana to cast it. Here I have the extended art version of Collector's Cage, 1 white, 1 colorless, a hideaway of 5. You pay 1 and tap to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So my understanding, my memory is hideaway 5s. You look at 5 cards in your library, you put 1 in exile, and then as soon as you have enough creatures, different creatures with +1/+1 tokens, you can play that card for free. Pretty nice ability. What do we have here? All right. So let's go with the first card here, the Vengevine. Now, the Vengevine, as I mentioned earlier, there were store events, and with each store event, there are cards given away to those that participate, those that finish in the top 8, and those that win the whole thing. Vengevine was a winner's card for an event during the OTJ era. This was the foil version. At the time I purchased it, as well as the other cards of its ilk, I didn't realize there were non-foil versions, and specifically the non-foil versions, my understanding, have the name of the store printed on them. So I have ordered a second Vengevine, a non-foil version that will have its store's name printed on the card, as well as another version of the hollow one, which was a top 8 card for the same event. And it will also have the name of the store from where it came from, which I think is kind of neat. I think that's kind of cool, to be honest with you. So this is the foil version of the full art Vengevine. Below it, we have a reprint of the Diabolic Tutor. Again, this was a reprint during the OTJ time of the OTJ series. Old school card. I remember this one from the 90s. 2 black, 2 colorless. Search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, and then shuffle. Very nice way of getting that key component of an engine, right? Whatever your engine happens to be, if you just can't seem to get it, particularly in a commander deck where you're dealing with 100 cards, this is a nice way of making it happen if you're playing black. This one feels fairly full. This first sleeve got Pillage the Bog. Pillage the Bog. It appears to be an extended art sorcery. 1 green, 1 black. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is twice the number of lands you control. Put 1 of them into your hand and the rest of them on the bottom of your library in a random order. You can plot this for 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 green. So I believe that means put it in exile until a later time. But I think not a bad way of, again, getting through a library, particularly if you have the ability to recursion or kind of recycle that library back, or recycle that graveyard back into your library. So Pillage the Bog, right? Pitiless Carnage, 1 black, 3 others, sacrifice any number of permanents you control, then draw that many cards. Again, nice way of getting through your deck, getting to those cards that are part of your engine, part of your win con. Rush of Dread, 2 black, 1 colorless, with a spree, so it's a minimum This is good. This is an expensive spree sorcery. Most sprees I've had so far are one specific color plus. This is 2 black and a color. So you're already talking a base cost of 3, which means you're going to spend at least 4. So let's see what it does. For 1 extra, target opponent sacrifices half the creatures they control rounded up. Ooh, that's nasty. For another +2, target opponent discards half the cards in their hand rounded up. That's also nasty. And for another +2, target opponent loses half of their life rounded up. Wow. So you're talking 5 colorless, 6 colors. So this is potentially all the way up to an 8 mana cast, but my gosh, think about what it does. Particularly in a standard format, you are talking about crippling an opponent. And even if you're looking at Commander, you are seriously looking at crippling at least one opponent, maybe angering multiple opponents. Selvala, Eager Trailblazer, looks to be the extended art version. 1 white, 1 green, 2 colorless for a 4/5 with Vigilance. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. You also choose a color, tap and choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each different power among creatures you control. Nice little character to put in your green-white decks. Right? Smuggler Surprise, extended art. 1 green instant spree. So this is the type of spree I'm used to. 1 base color plus. For 2 generic, mill 4 cards, you may put up to 2 creature and or land cards from among the milled cards into your hand. For a +4 and a green extra, so 6 total, you may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. For an extra +1 generic, creatures you control with power 4 or greater gain hexproof and indestructible to end of turn. So starts off as a 1 green, but you're looking at a possibility of adding up to 8 mana to the cost for a 9 mana cost card. I don't know if I would do that. Certainly if you have the mana, feel free. But its abilities are pretty nice. Right? Pretty nice to have. Be able to go through your deck and put into your hand whatever creatures you want or lands, then be able to at the same time put creatures into play without having to pay their mana cost. So those are 2 very nice abilities. And then the last ability is not bad either. Stingerback Terror, 2 red, 2 colors for 7/7. So you were paying only 4 for a flying trample 7/7. Drawback here is that it gets a -1/-1 for each card in your hand. So you want to try and mill out your hand and then play the Stingerback. Also has a plot of 2 generic plus a red. Tai Joaquin, the perfect shot. 1 white, 1 red for 2/3. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. So essentially, when you're killing them, I know there's multiple ways to remove creatures from the battlefield, but dealing enough damage is one of them. X and then tap. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a permanent or player this turn, it deals that much damage plus X instead. It's not a bad little ability. Vraska joins up, 1 green, 1 black. This is the extended art version. When Vraska joins up, enters the battlefield. Put a death touch counter on each creature you control. Whenever a legendary creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. I am not familiar with the death touch counters. I am guessing maybe they bring them back to life. I'm not sure. I could be completely wrong with that. And back to Pillage the Bog. Again, we're looking at all extended art versions here. Greater Train Heist. 1 red plus spree ability with a +2 colorless, +1 red. Untap all creatures you control. If it's your combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. That's very nice. +2 generic. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain first strike until end of turn. And for a +1 more red, choose target opponent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to that player this turn, create a tapped treasure token. Nice little instant to kind of build around. You're not going to play it right away, I wouldn't think. But once you get enough creatures on the board, this is something that you look at just popping out. And even then, once you look at the cost, you're looking at, if you were to cast everything, 2 more red, so 3 red +4, 7. So you're looking at a max of 7 mana for all those abilities. I think it's pretty nice. Extended art version of High Noon. 1 white, 1 colorless. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. For 1 red and 4 colors, sacrifice High Noon. It deals 5 damage to any target. Okay. Convol, Profiteering Mayor. This is one of them that I do particularly like. It's a 1 black, 1 white, 1 colorless for 2/4. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your opponent's control, for each of them, create a tapped token that's a copy of it. This ability triggers only once each turn. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So let's go back to that first one there. Whenever one or more tokens enters the battlefield under your opponent's control, for each of them, create a tapped token that's a copy of it. This ability only triggers once each turn. So my question would be, do you only get 1 creature, or somehow multiple creatures trigger at the same time or come into play at the same time? Do you get a token of all of those? Either way, I like this. I think this is a card that could be looked at as possibly being put into an upgrade of the Grand Larceny deck from the pre-cons of OTJ. Check that. Can't. It's white. Dang it. Next, we have Lila, Undefeated Slickshot. 1 red, 1 blue, 1 colors for 3/3. Prowess. Whenever you cast a multicolored instant or sorcery spell from your hand, exile that card instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. If you do, it becomes plotted, so it's going to be able to come back at a later time. That, I think, is pretty nice. Magna, the Horde Master. Mispronounced her name in an earlier video. Magna is a 2/2. Whenever you commit a crime, create a tapped treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Sacrifice 3 treasure tokens. Create a 4/4 red scorpion dragon creature token with flying and haste. Activate only as a sorcery. Obeka, Splitter of Seconds. Menace. Whenever Obeka, Splitter of Seconds, deals combat damage to a player, you get that many additional upkeep steps after this phase. I have no doubt there are plenty of ways to take advantage of that. As a casual, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that does seem like it could be very broken in the right hands. She cost 1 red, 1 black, 1 blue, 1 colorless, 2/5. Outcaster Trailblazer, 1 green, 2 colors for a 4/2. When Outcaster Trailblazer enters the battlefield, add 1 mana of any color. Whenever another creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Yeah, not bad. And you can plot it for its initial cost. And we're back to Great Train Heist. All right, jumping down to the last sleeve of this mail call. All right, we've got Annie joins up. 1 white, 1 green, 1 red, 1 colorless. When Annie joins up, enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker, it deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. If a triggered ability of a legendary creature you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So I think that ultimately means Annie's ability is going to trigger twice. So 10 damage is pretty handy. Another round. Also extended art version. We're looking at 1 white, 2 colorless, XX. Exile any number of creatures you control, then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control. Then repeat this X more times. Assimilation Aegis. 1 blue, 1 white, 1 colorless. It's an artifact equipment. When Assimilation Aegis enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target creature until Assimilation Aegis leaves the battlefield. Whenever Assimilation Aegis becomes attached to a creature, for as long as Assimilation Aegis remains attached to it, that creature becomes a copy of a creature card exiled with Assimilation Aegis. Okay. Wow, that is a mouthful. So I think in theory, you might want to exile a decently strong card if it costs a lot and you don't have the mana. And then you can just get a copy of it for a cheaper cost with the Aegis. Calamity, Galloping Inferno. Extended art, 4 red. 4 colorless, 2 red. Haste, 4/6. Whenever Calamity, Galloping Inferno attacks while saddled, choose a non-legendary creature that saddled it this turn and create a tap and attacking token that's a copy of it. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. Repeat this process once. That, I think, is pretty handy. You know, you're already getting a 4/6 with haste for 6 mana, and you get to attack with a creature that you saddle up. You essentially get to attack with it twice. This is a nice little card. Caustic Bronco. 1 black, 1 colors for 2/2. Whenever Caustic Bronco attacks, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. You lose life equal to that card's mana value if Caustic Bronco isn't saddled. Otherwise, each opponent loses that much life. Holy. I like it. I like it. I think that is a card that I might be looking to use in some black decks. Double Down, extended art version. 1 blue, 3 colorless. Whenever you cast an Outlaw spell, copy that spell. That is pretty nice. That is pretty nice, particularly because it's an enchantment, right? I mean, if it were an instant or a sorcery, you'd hope it'd be a little cheaper. But for an enchantment, I like that a lot. Duelist of the Mind. 1 blue, 1 colorless. This is the extended art version. It has power of star, toughness of 3, flying vigilance. Duelist of the Mind's power is equal to the number of cards you've drawn this turn. Whenever you commit a crime, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This ability triggers only once you search. So it's going to have, in theory, it's going to have at least a power of 1, right? Depending on how many cards you cast, and how many crimes you commit with those spells, may be much stronger. Free Strider Lookout. 1 green, 2 colorless. It's the extended art version. 3/3 with reach. Okay, that's nice to me. 3 mana for 3/3 with reach. Whenever you commit a crime, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn. Nice. And we're back to Annie Joins Up, which means we're through that sleeve and we are finished for this edition of Mail Call. Thank you for joining us.